You're listening to the AfterBuzz TV Network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your number one source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Keith Johnson.
From the AfterBuzz Studios in Los Angeles, California, presented by Maria Menounos and Bing.com, and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies, this is AfterBuzz TV's WWE SmackDown After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. If you'd like to buzz in on tonight's show, you can buzz us at 424-256-1729. That's 424-256-1729. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AfterBuzz TV's WWE SmackDown After Show.
Hey guys, here we are back again at the AfterBuzz show, and I want to say that Bing is for doing, and what we're doing is a SmackDown After Show.
Yes, we are.
Which we're going to have fun with. And I also want to say, be sure to go to iTunes and comment and rate us, because you're our viewers, and we're here for you, and we come here for free because we love you, and we want to give you the best review we possibly can on SmackDown because we love wrestling, we love our viewers. So your comments mean a whole lot to us. So please go on there and rate us and comment on iTunes. It'd be a wonderful thing to do, and we'll get back to you by giving you the review of SmackDown. And I'm Rick Grayson, your host, and today I have a new co-host, New York Knockout Nikki, who I'm thrilled to death is here.
Yay.
Yay.
Are you happy, Nikki?
I'm happy.
Are you real happy?
I'm always just real happy.
Not always.
Always.
Not in the gym with me.
Yeah.
And then we have our other wrestler, Ryan Klum, who's now doing shows, and I'm
Just started.
Yes, just started.
Very excited.
And then we have a really good special guest that was referred to by a lot of big names in the business. He's a big name in the business with Ring of Honor. He does commentary. Nigel McGuinness, who's wrestled basically all over the world.
Nice to be here. Nice.
You know, we're doing a 2 out of 3 today here.
Oh, bloody hell.
Right here. Right on there. And I also want to add, because of wrestling and doing and having blood and stuff, I did print out my notes, and they bled all over. So I don't know what that's all about. Maybe it has something to do with wrestling.
Pink blood,
Maybe.
huh?
Pink blood, yeah. It's not real. It's kind of washed down with water. So we're going to start with SmackDown. We'll start with the opening. I think we had, Sheamus and Daniel Bryan?
Sheamus and Daniel Bryan. Sheamus cut a little bit of a promo in the beginning, which is okay.
Yeah.
But he's got a lot of charisma, so he gets that over. But yeah, well, I guess it was the first Sheamus and Daniel Bryan match, which was, I noticed Bryan was they were really working that arm. So
Yes.
I was thinking of you on that with the old school.
Because we talked about, and and I know you know. You take a body part and work it.
Good story to tell.
Yes.
Yep.
And they did this, and I like seeing that come back to that rather
Yeah,
than
and it
doing-
continued throughout the entire show, and sounds like it's going to continue into
Yeah.
their, other shows that Sheamus has a bad shoulder now.
Right.
From that.
What do you feel about that kind of stuff?
Yeah, it's good. Like I said, it's always good to tell a story. A lot of times when I do seminars with people and I talk about psychology, and everybody has a similar notion of what psychology is that you have a beginning and a middle and an end, and
Yes.
you have a shine and a cut off and a heat and a finish, and it's kind of formulaic. And when you're starting out, that works well. But I say, as long as you're telling a story that people can digest, then that's great. And instead of just doing stuff for the sake of doing stuff, you still need stuff. I mean, that's very important.
Yes.
You've got stuff,
Yes.
but it has to fit within the framework of a story. Much like if you take a look at a Hollywood movie nowadays,
Yes.
different than a Hollywood movie 10, 15 years ago,
Yes.
but you've still got that same story
Yeah.
that ties it all together. Whether it's working an arm or a foot or
Right.
something else like that, is something that people can digest and understand.
That was phenomenal.
Beautifully said.
That all came out of you in like
we got
one
that
breath.
covered.
My God, I'm sitting here amazed.
Everything sounds better with a British accent.
Doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
Always.
Just definitely not ghetto.
No.
But you know what, Nigel? I start my day like that. I have a beginning, a middle, and the end, and I sell the foot all day, and people follow me around, and then by the end of the day, I've culminated into the end of my day, and that's it. They go
That's it.
home.
You
sell
sold your
the
hand
foot
when I
and the
shook
hip.
you today.
I
yeah,
did sell my
right.
hand.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you familiar with Daniel Bryan or Sheamus personally?
Yes, Daniel Bryan's arguably my biggest career rival. I've wrestled him more times than anybody else. Probably some of my biggest matches were against Daniel Bryan, or Bryan Danielson as he was
Right.
known back then.
Right.
And I wrestled Sheamus when he was just breaking in England on some of the circuits around for Brian Dixon, All-Star over there. Big guy back then. I knew he definitely had the look, and then he could carry himself the right way as well. And next thing I knew, there he is. He's on TV and working out with Triple H. So
Yeah, doing very, very well.
indeed, he's doing well, and I'm happy for him. You know what I
sure.
mean? It's nice to see people that come along the same sort of routes as me get there and start making some money. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be happy. It's people do get ahead in life, and sometimes they surpass you, and sometimes they don't. But we're all a brotherhood, and when someone makes it, it's like a family member got ahead, and I think it's a great thing. You got to give them that push and boost them.
Yeah. I think there's a good chance Sheamus may be the biggest star in the world in 5 years. I think he really has
you
that possible potential.
You said that last week.
Yeah, just because he's connecting with that audience, you just see there every week more and more and more. They love him.
Yeah.
Love him.
Yeah.
And back in the day, Hulk Hogan, didn't do a whole lot of moves, when I was a kid, but there was something about him that just connected to the audience.
Well, just his
Everybody
look,
loved.
just how he looks.
Yeah.
In
He looks
general,
different.
I
It's
mean,
funny because
Yeah.
I've talked to people about that Hogan, and obviously, if Hogan came along now, I don't think he'd connect. I don't think it would
Yeah.
get over in the same way because it's not the 80s. The 80s now. The 80s was a very different time, right? I mean, it was very. It was.
I don't know. I wasn't born yet.
But look at the TV shows in the 80s. Look at the music in the
Yeah.
80s. It was a very different product.
Very, very
Entertainment
different.
was very different then. than it
MTV
is
was
now.
brand new.
Exactly. And so arguably what wrestling has to do now is try and find out what it is that works now in the entertainment world and do that with wrestling.
Yeah.
Whatever that is. I'm not sure anybody's hit the nail on the head yet. But people are trying,
Yeah.
People are trying things. And at Ring of Honor, we're trying to put something out that's more more wrestling, more athletic based, which you should love as well, Rick, because
do.
it does hark back to the old days where, wrestlers, worked more. I don't want to say smart because it's very injurious. It's very dangerous. We were talking about Shimmer earlier before we came on the air, and how it is very dangerous. But I think now, with our notion of what real fighting is with UFC and stuff like that, the business has to evolve in that
Yeah.
direction. You know what I mean? But how to do that, that's up for anybody's guess.
I've thought about that a lot. There's got to be a way to do it, and by bringing Brock Lesnar back with Cena, it's kind of going that way, but it's not
Yeah.
going that way because you're taking two guys in wrestling that work and trying to make it a competition like a fight, and they've been doing that for years, but it never ends up being a fight.
Right. But the Extreme Rules match they had actually was pretty close. It was pretty good the way they did
Yeah.
that, actually, if you go back to the Extreme
Yeah.
Rules they just did last week.
Well, I've
thought
watched Ring
they
of
did that
Honor
pretty
many,
well.
many times, and I
good.
absolutely love it.
Great.
I need to watch a lot more than I do.
Yes, you
I'd
do.
like to see
Yeah.
it at a higher level than where it is because I think it deserves it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and it's not. You talk about Daniel Bryan, you talk about CM Punk, Samoa Joe, so many of the guys that
And
put
now Claudio, who just started
Claudio
with
as well,
our
Austin
Antonio
Aries
Cesaro.
as
yeah.
well. The list of people that came through there and put that company on the map, is extensive. And so, all those guys, me included, you can see the scars on my head. The concussions that I got to get that company where it is today. It would be terrible if that company didn't continue to improve and
Right.
make money and stuff like that. So we're trying now. You can go to rohwrestling.com to find where you can watch it if it's in your local area.
You can watch it online
You can
too.
watch it
I've
online
watched
as well.
episodes online. Yeah.
Right, yeah. So, and you can check out the back catalogue as well and get my new DVD.
Oh, excellent.
2-disc set. They managed to find
Oh,
enough matches for 2 discs.
I want to hear about that for 1 second before we go on. Tell me about the DVD.
So it's a 2-disc set. Basically, they've got my highlights, the best matches of my career. Some of them against Daniel Bryan, some against Takeshi Morishima. Really, the who's who of the independent wrestling world. And I was a champion there for about 15 months and really had a legacy at the end of it. Samoa Joe, really made a great name for himself as Ring of Honor World Champion.
Right.
Daniel Bryan as well, Austin Aries. So to be the champion there for a certain amount of time, in my mind at least, gave you a certain credibility within the industry.
Yeah.
And so the 2-disc set that is out there at the moment, you can buy that and you'll see the real evolution of my career when I started out doing a very technical British style and getting influences from Japan and places like that to where at the end of it, I've kind of felt like I was one of the better wrestlers in the world.
I'm going to give you a link on my website to that.
Okay, fantastic. Thank
I
you.
think that's awesome. And you were able to keep track of all that and put it into something is awesome.
Yeah, so it's all there, and there's a little interview as well where I kind of sit down and talk very genuinely and heartfelt about my career, the disappointments, and when you're talking about movies and documentaries and DVDs, I'm actually working on a documentary now
Yes.
about my retirement tour, Last of McGuinness, and you can see more of that in that, and that's what I'm here in LA doing basically, is putting that together.
I want to know more about that later too, because I have some questions.
Fantastic,
for you.
great.
On a side note,
Rock and roll,
about Kickstarter.
Yeah, cool.
Okay.
Cool. You got it.
Okay. Yeah, that's really interesting. I'm fascinated by this. I really am. It takes a lot to fascinate me at my age. Mm-hmm. She's got to be pretty special.
Yes.
She's fascinating you.
Nikki's giving me the dirty look. Okay, now we have Kofi Kingston, R-Truth.
Yeah, well, I guess we should mention too that Alberto Del Rio and
Oh, yes.
Ricardo Rodriguez did a run-in at the end of that match there and attacked Sheamus, which is part of the ongoing injury
Right.
throughout the show.
Right.
And so when we came back from commercial, we had Sheamus in the trainer's room, grasping his arm and swearing and whatnot.
See how he
So-
knows every detail?
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
How many times did you watch it? Like 3 or 4?
Once.
He has that
I had
memory.
last night. Yeah.
He captures everything in that brain, and he just knows where everything's going.
Yeah.
I have to watch it. Like I have to keep rewinding it sometimes.
I keep falling
I
asleep.
rewind it sometimes. I actually, one of the matches coming up, I had to rewind a couple times. Unfortunately, the next one, the tag match, I actually was kind of zoning in and out during this a little bit.
The LAX match.
Yeah, LAX. It's Hunico
Sorry.
and Camacho
Yeah.
and Kofi and R-Truth. Yeah, I mean, very much like LAX or Mexican America now and TNA.
Yeah.
Very similar.
Hunico
type
is one
gimmick.
of my favorite workers because he was. I'm a lucha whore, so he was Incognito. He was the original Mystico, and I loved him under a hood, and I loved his work, and I think he's awesome.
Yeah.
He's a good-looking dude, but I just hate the fact that they have him like he's not under a hood anymore, but he's still like.
You mean the mystery's gone?
Yeah, well, the mystery's gone, and I don't know. I think they should bring more of those characters.
Basically,
I mean,
you were hot for him when he had the hood on.
I was hot for him. I was hot for his work.
Okay. Well, that's all
Told you.
right.
Speaking of, he's not really being given a chance to do much either.
Yeah,
he didn't really do much in the match.
but
It's-
yeah,
'cause
but
he's
it's-
so talented.
But nobody notices.
Yeah.
Like Kofi Kingston gives him a Hurricane Rana that he took perfectly, and like his 3/4 rolls. I noticed things like that. I don't know, but I'm just saying. As far as like his lucha background, he's just got like a sick base, and I wish they would push him more. In that
Yeah.
aspect.
TV wrestling's very different though, and I was explaining this to my girlfriend last night, and she was like, "Wow, these matches are all so short and they're over so quickly. You don't really
Yes.
get to see anything." I mean, that's their notion of what TV wrestling is, which has evolved, from the Monday Night Wars and stuff like that, where they think that the backstage skits and a lot of the storyline is more important than the actual wrestling. And same thing in TNA. People generally believe that you put wrestling on a wrestling show, people tune out. You put non-wrestling, and they stay watching. So that's why, unfortunately, a lot of guys, when they go to that company, don't get a chance to really, go out there and do the best they can. But arguably, that's why you have pay-per-views, so you give them the opportunity to do it then.
Right, and house shows. I've
house
said
shows as
I've
well.
said before that, like, to me, like the Raws and SmackDowns are the evolution of the old school like Superstars and Wrestling Challenge, what I grew up watching as a kid, which were all squash matches. To get you to watch the pay-per-views and go to the house shows, and those are the evolution of everyone wants star power now. You don't want to see the jobbers wrestling, so it's kind of a new evolution of that, but it's still the TV show.
It is.
It's not the great wrestling matches. You need to go to see that.
Sure, it's very difficult. I was thinking about it on the way over here, how you could arguably say that wrestling is now in a similar sort of stage to the early 90s,
Yes.
where it's not as popular as it once was, and they, because of their revenue streams, they're still making money, and they will always make money because, they're international now, and they're going to be able to at least get by for a long time, unless the product really tanks. But to get to that sort of next stage, to evolve to where wrestling's hot, cool, water cooler topic, that's what they want to call it. I don't know. It's a very difficult thing to do, and it's certainly something has to change. You categorically change.
I saw an interesting comment a while ago from Honky Tonk Man who said wrestling fans today, kids don't grow up being wrestling fans anymore. They grow up being a fan of a TV show called Monday Night Raw, and that's very different.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
That makes a lot
And
of
I
sense.
thut it was a really good comment when he said that.
Yeah, well,
I grew up
smart.
as a wrestling fan.
Yeah, but wrestling's always
But-
had its peaks and valleys.
Yes, absolutely, always.
Except when WWE took over and they went national with it. Of course, it had its peaks. It had some valleys, but not like prior to that.
Yeah,
we
it started to hit a valley in like the early to mid '90s.
But that's not to
when the
say,
Repo
and,
Man
and,
those
and
guys
ever
came in.
since I've been in this business, people have always been said wrestling's cyclical and it's going to come around again. You just got to stick around until it comes around again. Not necessarily going to happen, The Roman Empire died one day as well.
That's very true.
That's the truth.
I'll tell you this, Nigel, I'm coming around again.
Good man.
I don't know to do what, but it's something, I'm sure. I haven't given up it yet in my life. But things do go full circle in life. I mean, they do. They take time, and it may not be the equivalent of what it was, but it will be around. I don't think it'll ever die.
Well, what about, Glow? We were talking about Glow.
Yeah.
How they just had the documentary that came out here.
Yes.
That died.
It did die.
Yeah.
And it's hard to revive it. It takes a lot of money. And the other reason I think it's really hard, and we've talked about this, is you have the girls on TNA and you have them on WWE, which are all divas, and that's what the guys are watching.
Right.
You can't bring Glow back with the originals that are all in mid-40s and 50s now.
No, of course
Right,
not.
no.
No.
You know?
No.
So
you need a new group
you
of
need
girls.
a new breed.
Restlicious, baby.
Well,
Yeah.
Restlicious tried this. Restlicious tried this, and
Right.
they did so many shows. And I talked to Johnny C. tonight till 1 a.m, who ran
Yeah.
that, and he's just having a tough time just
Yeah.
getting money to finish off 2 shows.
course.
Because wrestling has evolved, and Glow having the half retarded skits that they had that got over back in the 80s.
Well, now, not now.
Yeah, they
Maybe
won't
won't
work
get
now.
over now, but the girls nowadays can actually wrestle. I mean, that's a plus.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
actually trained workers that have a good background.
Yeah.
Whereas Glow girls were just kind of put through a 6-week boot camp.
So, of dancing.
But-
Yeah.
of
And you have
dancing.
attractive girls now that can wrestle back, and you had girls that could wrestle back in the 60s and 70s, Moolah and Mae
Yeah,
Young and
yeah,
all of
yeah,
them.
yeah.
But you wouldn't want to put them up on your wall.
Penny Banner, right? Penny Banner, she was
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
right?
she was okay.
She was good looking.
Okay.
Mae Young trained me.
Oh, is that right?
I had a crush on her.
I bet you did.
She was in her 40s. I was in my 20s, and she always had her tights on. I'd go up, and she'd give me that little cockeyed look in the room. And she also wore Aquanet hairspray.
Yeah.
And to this day, when I smell Aquanet, I think of Mae Young.
Is that right? Fantastic.
She was like my mom. She really
Yeah.
treated me like a son over the years, and I had so much respect for her.
Wow.
Oh my God.
She's still one of my favorites.
Yeah.
I mean, she still gets out there every once in a while. She was out a couple weeks ago.
Is that right?
Yeah, she was on the Old School Wrestling
Yes, she
like
was.
2 weeks ago.
Yes, she
Wow.
was.
Came out and made out with the great Khali.
That's really funny, actually, because I was talking to Austin Aries recently, about how I didn't get to WWE and, the disappointment in certain aspects of my career. And he was saying, well, maybe that's just this portion of your career. And he used Moolah and Mae Young as a great example, how Moolah was the champion for so many years and she was always, the top one. And in the last stage of their career, Mae Young was the one that sort of came back at the end, and she was the one who was giving birth to hands and stuff like this, right?
Sleeping
And
with Mark Henry and,
Moolah
yeah.
was kind of all of a sudden, second pegging. So
Yeah.
you just don't know in life.
Well, back in that day when it was 1965 when I trained with her, we did upstairs at Olympic Auditorium in a makeshift ring in an office space, and it was hard like that with a little pad on it. And she wanted me. She says, "You're gonna have to learn all these things. You're gonna have to learn American style. You're gonna have to learn Mexican style, Japanese, and shoot." I didn't know what shoot was, So she showed me, and she showed me some shooting holds because she says, "These guys are going to stiff. You're going to jerk you around. You're going to have to be able to shoot with them because you're going to have to prove yourself."
Right.
So
Right.
I had to learn all of that, and this is 5 days a week, maybe 3 hours at a whack, driving from Bakersfield to LA, like 2 hours each way, and then back at the gym. So I really put my time in. That's before injuries, of course. BI before injuries, and I learned a lot, and I'll never forget it. I mean, it was amazing training.
I give you props for training with a woman back in the day and, kind of respecting that she knew what she was talking about.
Yeah, and today I'll even wear pink shoes. You know that.
I know that.
So it doesn't
you
really
get in
matter.
touch with your feminine
I am
side.
very in touch with my feminine side. Okay, so we had after that.
And just a quick mention too is Epico and Primo were out watching the match too. They are now with AW. It looks like is representing them. Which
I wouldn't have even known that if you didn't just say that.
Oh really?
I think
Yeah,
that
they were
totally
sitting
went
out the
over my
whole
head.
that little
Me too.
storyline of Abraham Washington looking for new clients, which I'm hoping they kind of make him an old school manager a little bit, and where. It wasn't when someone had a stable, they weren't all connected. It was this guy, you managed this guy, Bobby Heenan managed Hercules and Andre the Giant, and
Yeah.
they never crossed.
Yeah.
That type of thing. I'm hoping
Abraham
they build him
Washington
up.
used to be my postman.
Yes, you said that last week.
Okay. Same name.
So yeah, after that we had our Funkasaurus segment with, I guess they are now called the Funkadactyls, the dancers.
That's entertaining, though.
It's very entertaining.
Yeah.
As I've said before, I think that would be a great bit to be in for the arena. I'm sure it's electric in there when that music hits and the dancing goes on.
Do you know him, Nigel?
No, not personally, no. He was in and around Tampa because he was at FCW before they put him up
Right.
on TV, and I know a few people that talked to him and stuff, and seemed like a nice fella, you know what I mean?
I have
He's
a funny
from out
story
here.
for him. He was in Gold's Gym in North Hollywood one day, and I see him walking through the machines. It's like a gorilla, in between the equipment. And I went over him. I said, "What's your name?" He says, "Oh, my name is George." I said, "Jack Armstrong told you to call me, didn't he, about training?" He said, "That's right." So I introduced myself. "Have you thought about becoming a wrestler?" He says, "Oh, I already am." I said, "Oh, I didn't know that." Because he's so huge, right? So he wanted to come over and train in my ring, and I'd set up a time, and he'd never come. He'd always
Yeah.
say, "I can't make it today." He was working as a bodyguard for Snoop Dogg.
That's right.
So he said, "I got out of town, Rick. God, I really want to come over." And I kept looking at him. I think, I'm not sure I want that amount of weight in my gym, in my ring. He's going to break the boards. I got to turn the boards again. And he never did show. And then one day I finally said that you could, and he said he was going to, and he still didn't show. But he called me. He always called me every time.
There you go.
Nice guy.
Yeah. And
So-
there's a bit of, I think there's a room for everybody in wrestling. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to be a great worker,
Right.
You know, you don't,
Absolutely.
You know, if it's there's Jimmy Jacobs put it best. There's good wrestling and there's bad wrestling, and it's as simple as that. It's either entertaining and it draws people to watch it, or it doesn't. You know, and that's all there is to it. You know, simple as that.
I guess we're done then.
There we go. Thanks for your time.
Let me just throw this in
Yep.
right now.
Absolutely.
Okay. If you shop at Amazon.com, please go to AfterBuzzTV.com first, and then click on the Amazon banner, because AfterBuzz gets a little kickback of that, and it kind of helps keep us on the air. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and click on the Amazon banner before you order your stuff. There's no extra cost, but AfterBuzz TV gets a little kickback.
And that keeps us going.
Because
That
we
keeps
do
us
this for
going.
free.
It pays for our water.
It does pay for the water.
Cheers.
Is this Los Angeles water? Oh.
It comes out. They scrape it out of the back of the toilet.
Delicious. Delicious.
It's in the toilet tank.
Oh. Someone have Mexican last night?
You taste those onions too?
I thought it's interesting they threw, though, with Brodus Jack Swagger in there, so he actually kind of had a match.
Yeah.
It wasn't someone he just went in and squashed this time. So, but they, had the Jack ran out of the match and didn't finish. But I also wanted to mention that Dolph Ziggler takes some crazy bumps.
Yes.
That guy's crazy. He's insane. Some of the stuff he does, I worry for him, but he's an incredible talent.
Yes, he is. Well, that'll come back later in life when he starts to get out of bed in the morning, one piece at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've all been there.
It's kind of the Kurt Hennig of our generation, almost. You know? It's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
some fantastic bumps.
And also, I wanted to mention about Brodus now bringing the kids into the ring and dancing at the end.
That was freaking adorable.
Yeah, it really made me think of the 80s when I grew up
Yeah.
watching. When they would try to get the audience, the kids involved, to
That's
get in the
so
ring
good
at the end.
for the connection with the business. And getting
Incredibly
people,
good, yeah.
You get that kid audience. Oh my God, yeah. That's
Yeah,
perfect.
he definitely makes me think of the kind of I don't know if I call it the golden age, but the beginning of the WWE of the 80s with the
Yes.
Hulk Hogan and the Rock and Wrestling connection.
He would have been perfect
He
then.
would have been perfect for that. He's a little bit old school like that, so I enjoy that just because the kid in me comes out when I see it.
Obviously, the audience enjoys it too.
Very much so. Yeah, he's getting much a lot more over than he did as the Monster.
Yeah.
So.
He
And
found his niche.
yeah, I'll tell you, the first time I saw the Funkasaurus, I was like, I wanted to see him destroy somebody, but it's grown on me a lot.
Yeah, he's come a long way. Mm-hmm. All right, what we got after that?
Next, we had a recap from Extreme Rules and Raw of what was it, the John Cena and Brock Lesnar feud.
Yes.
Which once again, I thought that match was great in Extreme Rules. If anyone saw that, it was awesome.
I didn't get a chance to see it, but I heard a little bit online about
Yeah.
it. And it was a different style, you know, trying to do something different.
Yeah, Brock was in his MMA gear with the gloves and everything. And I mean, the beginning of it, he went in and was legit throwing elbows, cut Cena's head open, was throwing full on MMA elbows to the head in the beginning. It was brutal. It was a real fight in the beginning. I mean,
Yeah.
they were hitting each other full on.
Well, he's been doing that for so long, he might forget how to pull back.
Yeah, maybe.
It's tough to transition, I would
Yeah,
imagine.
yeah.
So,
Really.
right?
Yeah.
Either way.
But
like,
they
it's tough to
trained. They started it like an MMA fight, and then it kind of moved to more of a legit wrestling match. So I think they did that. I'm sure on purpose to really sell the fact that this was a fight. This was Brock Lesnar throwing real elbows at John Cena. John Cena took a beating in that match. I mean, he took a beating. It was really good.
Good.
Yeah. And then after that, what was it? We were backstage with Daniel Bryan and Eve and Alberto
Right.
talking about Sheamus's injury, that he should have to wrestle again that night and have the match. Daniel Bryan was complaining about Alberto Del Rio's run-in.
Yeah.
So he got his match again at the end of the night.
Didn't they have it after that?
No, that was actually the main event. So this was just kind of building up to that.
Oh, okay. Because I have it down here as number 4. I don't know why.
Yeah, they talked, but yeah, then the match was at the end of the show. After that was
Damian Sandow.
Damian Sandow, his promo. He was supposed to be wrestling.
Do you know him?
He's very articulate.
Damien Sandow. What was his name back in
I
OVW?
want to say Idol Stevens.
Idol
was
Stevens,
it?
of course. Aaron the Idol Stevens. Yeah, yeah. No, I'm very familiar with him. I met him on a few occasions. Yeah, and he's a guy that really, has really paid his dues and got released. Went back down to Puerto Rico, developed a new style, came back up and stuff like that. He's a guy that just wants it. So I'm really happy to see him there. I caught a little bit of the new gimmick, which was it's something.
Yeah.
Not going to set the world on fire, but it's an entertaining part of the show, and I think he can certainly add something to him. He's
Gets his foot on TV.
yeah, exactly.
So they're
he's
teasing.
good hand as well.
They're
Good hand as
teasing
well.
with him, and now getting him in the ring, and then he walks out. It's a good tease.
Yeah, and that made me mad because I've been waiting for 4 weeks. It's like, I want to see this guy wrestle already. We've seen these promos for 4 weeks. I want to see him wrestle. We were fine. My mom texted me and she's like, how interested she was to see that, and then we didn't get it.
Well, you got to see Derek Bateman.
We got to see Derek Bateman from NXT came up and got his match, and he complained until he finally got someone to come out and wrestle him.
Got his match.
Don't know if that's exactly who you'd want to come out, Ryback.
Do you know Ryback?
Yep. He actually,
Sheffield, I think, right?
I think I've got his couch in my apartment in Florida.
Do you?
Yeah. Oh shit! I shouldn't have said that. He's
He's gonna want it back now.
Probably not. It smells. But yeah, no, he was down there in Florida when I was down there as well. Not in the same place, but I met him a few times, and another guy that huge wrestling fan and just wanted to be a part of WWE.
He should be able to afford a new couch by now.
I should think so. He had a tough run with it as well. He had a few injuries and stuff like that. Kept off TV and that, but I think because he's got that size.
Yeah.
He's doing that DDP yoga now. We had DDP in a couple weeks ago, and he's got Ryback on that. So
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Good for him.
So
Well, he's definitely got the look, that's for sure.
Did you notice the chants that were going on during that match? Did you hear what they were
Goldberg,
chanting?
right? Yeah.
Goldberg.
Yeah.
They say fans forget. Wrestling fans have a short memory, but sometimes I disagree. Sometimes that was going the whole time. So I would love to see them. Can you imagine if they brought Goldberg in to do something with him?
I know, it'd be awesome, huh?
Yeah.
I don't think he's interested.
I don't think so either. Yeah, he's got too much going on.
Yeah. Okay, then we had Big Show and Bob Orton.
Randy Orton.
Bob Orton we had. Oh, no, I got that on the next show. I'm sorry. I was thinking about Bob Orton. In my head. He's in my head with the cast on TV. Okay.
You're thinking of
Go
Dad.
Ahead. Go ahead.
So, we had Kane and Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton and The Big Show. And I just want to say I am loving watching Big Show more than I ever have now.
I was just going to say that. I used to think he was kind of boring, and I'm loving his work right now, especially when he's up against Kane.
Completely different person.
Yeah, as I said, I think he's wrestling almost as a smaller guy. It's like this athleticism's coming out, and he's bumping a lot more, and it's been awesome to watch him over the last couple months.
Have you worked with him, Nigel?
No, I haven't. I met him once when I did a tryout for WWE and just sat next to him. I was like,
Yeah.
unbelievable, monstrous guy. But I think a lot of people, arguably everybody, has to find their niche within wrestling, and for some people they get it right away and make a lot of money, and for other people it comes later in their career, and they still make a lot of money, but it takes them a while to get it. I mean, in your career, Rick, when did you feel you really got it?
When I got out of it.
Sometimes that can happen
No,
too.
I think when I got out of it, and I started wrestling school, and then I started doing TV work and stunts and everything surrounding wrestling. And now I think I'm making more money out of wrestling than I ever made in my lifetime because of all the side stuff I have from it.
Right.
It's just amazing. DVDs and doing the school and doing television and then I was training people for like Cold Case TV show. I had a month on that, so I had the stunt guys in the ring. So it's related. But not personally in the ring taking bumps and hurting myself anymore.
Yeah. For me, it took a long time. I remember when I started out, I learned in the Midwest, the HWA, and I learned a very old school American style. Les Thatcher trained me, so I learned the old school, working a body part, psychology, storyline, all this sort of stuff. And then I realized that for me to get to the next level, I had to pretty much stand out from the other guys that were trained around me, and being British, I had to develop a British style, so I had to go back to England and learn that style. And once I had that style, that got me into Ring of Honor, but it got me into Ring of Honor at the bottom level. But for me to get to the top level, I had to see what these guys were doing that I wasn't, which was hitting people really hard and flying around a lot and doing a lot of crazy stuff you can't see anywhere else. So I thought, what of that I can do, hit people really hard and work more of a Japanese style. So I got that influence there. So it really took 5 years for me to really get to that stage where I thought, okay, now I get it. Now I'm rocking and rolling. Now I can have great matches and make people look good and sell tickets, you know. And that was what it used to be like, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, you couldn't get to that stage. No one drew money right out of the bat unless it was, you know, like a Gus Sonnenberg or someone like that basically, because they're already nationally known names, you could draw money, you know what I mean? But that's how you get to that stage, you know. That's why CM Punk is so good. That's why Daniel Bryan is so good, because they took that time to develop that style. The danger, and what exists now, is that to do that, you're going to get hurt. You're going to get injured.
Yeah.
You know, it's very difficult to get to that stage of being that good without having injuries along the way. And arguably, you know, WWE and to a lesser extent TNA, you know, want guys off the street that, you know, have a clean bill of health, you know,
Right.
but then want to get trained as well. So there's this sort of dichotomy that's going on. You've got to try and find a happy medium, and it's very difficult for them to do. I'd hate to be in their position to try and find the next big thing, you know, because you know, to find a guy like Kurt Angle, once in a lifetime, you know. I mean,
Yeah.
Kurt got it after 2 weeks. He was a better wrestler than me after 2 weeks, you know,
Right.
without a doubt. But they come along once in a lifetime,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
And
Yeah, I think he had his first match after a couple weeks. I read, and he talks about it in his book.
Well, years ago, Roy Shire ran a show at the Cow Palace, and he had I don't remember who the main star was, but he put him against a bodybuilder who had these tremendous abs. And for like 3 or 4 weeks, he plugged the guy that the abs were indestructible. No matter what he does, nothing's going to take this guy down because his abs are so indestructible. And they sold out the Cow Palace, the biggest house ever, $180,000 house back in the day, was a lot of money.
Oh, wow.
And the guy was out of nowhere. And I think he just did the one show and a couple of shows, and that was it.
Yeah.
But it's funny how they did that, because he had no training at all.
Yeah.
And even well, I'll get in this in old school. Ask me about Joe Gold when we get to old school.
Okay.
Les Thatcher, very good.
Yeah, without Les, I mean, he put me on such a great foundation to develop, you know. I mean, he taught me not only psychology, but he taught me to respect the business, and,
Right.
you know, and professionalism. And
And respect your elders like myself.
absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right.
And one thing I also just want to mention one thing quickly in that match is the backdrop that Big Show gave to Cody Rhodes, where he went, looks like about 15 feet in the air. That was a very impressive backdrop, which can be scary things to take.
You're up there forever.
Yeah, and I can just imagine being backdrop by Big Show. That's got to be a little bit of a frightening experience.
Just to get up on top of him to go.
Ooh, yeah. I mean, it's
like
a little bit
space.
scary when we've got the 5'8" guys doing it to me in class.
It's like the space shuttle.
Yeah.
It's very spectacular. I always remember I used to take a great big backdrop, you know, and it's actually an easier bump. It looks more dangerous because you've got further to fall. I think you'd understand as well, right? Like it's the tight condensed bumps that are argued to be more dangerous because you don't get time to like lay out, you know, and then that's when you get hurt the most. But those backdrops, I used to love taking them all the way up, and here it comes, boom, and you're okay, you know. But
It's intimidating at first though, because you're scared of like the timing and
Yeah.
how much how much oomph they're gonna give
Yeah.
you, and then like how much you jump and like all that stuff.
right.
And you got to flip over feet
okay, you'll
overhead.
get it.
You gotta stay-
I'm working. I'm getting it. I'm
You gotta stay
figuring
up
it
there long
out.
enough to have a sandwich.
Plus, and you know what? Here's a very interesting fact. I'm not sure if it was Finlay or it was one of the old school British guys that was talking about it, and they watched a match where someone took a really huge backdrop, and everyone went, "Whoa, fantastic!" And he was like, "It was good, but at the end of the day, if we're trying to convince people this is real, which we're not."
Yeah.
But we're trying to let them suspend their disbelief.
Absolutely.
Now with Big Show and Cody Rhodes, it works because he's a giant. But when other guys take massive, monstrous backdrops, something doesn't compute to the average person on the street. They may not even realize, but they go, "Wait a second. There's no way you can throw another human being 10 feet in the air." You know what I mean? So that's part of the subtleties of the art form of what we call
Absolutely.
professional wrestling. It's just those little things that people don't get, and even people watching it don't understand.
Yes.
But it computes. To them.
Absolutely. As a kid, it was like everyone had superhuman strength. You see the hip toss as a guy with his arm just throwing the guy around. Everyone's got superhuman strength. It's incredible.
Yeah.
And you watch that, and it's definitely part of the art.
Do you remember an English wrestler by the name of Gordon Nelson?
Was he one of the Nelson brothers?
He might have. Well, that was Ricky Nelson and David Nelson from Ozzy and Harriet. No, that's a whole
Oh,
different.
he's
Nelson.
the Royal brothers. Rings a bell. Yeah, go on.
This is back in the 70s, and he came here to work. He was a very, very good wrestler. And there was Rasputin.
Okay.
I worked with both these guys, and they wrestled the English style you're talking about, which is pretty much different than the American style. They had me all over the place, upside down and backwards, and next thing I knew, I'm sitting on top of them for a pin. I don't even know how I got there. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
crazy.
very much
You're doing
so.
something, and they're twisting around. You're going this way and this way, and it's almost like a ride at Disneyland. All of a sudden, you end up on top, and it's like, I'm on top of them. Pin them. And they put you there. They just put
Yeah.
you where you want, wherever you want to be. You're there. That was so interesting.
Yeah.
They took the. That was like a broom. There, just wrestled the broom.
I still haven't wrestled a broom.
I have one in the garage.
I know. We'll have to break that out someday.
Will we have Layla after that?
Yeah, well, first we had Matt Stryker interviewing Sheamus real quickly, and he will fight, and then Layla. And, of course, they also had the Don't Try This at Home promo, which I guess we've never talked about, but should mention because you should not do this at home. If you want to wrestle, please go to a wrestling school.
Unless you have a brother or a sister you don't like and you want to do it.
I used to do to my little sister as a kid, too, and that's
My
not
brother
a
used
good...
to put me in hold.
Yeah.
All right, real quick, because I don't want to get away from SmackDown. I was
Yes.
watching Channel 5 wrestling when I was about 12 years old in Santa Monica. My mom was sitting there, and she didn't like it, of course. And they did a hammerlock. So I went over and put a hammerlock on her. She went in the hospital and dislocated her shoulder. I was 12 years old. Never let me forget it. I tried it at home.
Don't try this.
Yeah, I tried it at home when I was a kid, too, and it's not smart to do.
But my mom, the one that cooks my meals.
Yeah.
I didn't get any meals.
I
for a
did to
week.
my little sister, so
I had
that's different.
one-handed flapjacks. That was it. Okay.
But yes, then we had Layla versus Natalia, and finally we had a pretty good Divas match. I was very happy to see this. The first time I think I've seen hold to hold in a Divas match in WWE in a very, very long time.
It was good.
It was very good.
Yeah, they're getting better and better and better.
Those two girls can work.
Yes.
Here's my thing on the women's matches. I feel
Oh,
Here we go.
no.
Okay.
I thought it was really good.
Shimmer.
I just feel like no. I feel like that I was a really good match, but it was like I feel like one of them's going a million miles an hour because they give them like 2 minutes
Yes.
from bell or entrance to bell or whatever, and they just like Layla was just going like so fast, and it was a
Yes.
really good match, and
was
Natty's
fast.
awesome, and she did really well, but it was just too short.
You've probably seen this a million times. You get a 5-minute match, and everybody wants to do everything they know in 5 minutes.
It depends what that 5-minute match, because if that 5-minute match is your first opportunity in a company, you're trying to get a job there.
Yeah.
What do? You go out there and you tell a story and you do very basic sort of stuff. You're not going to get hired in this day and age, and that's the tragedy. Because I hear a lot of people saying, don't do a whole lot, and if you do a whole lot, you won't get hired either, because you're
Yeah.
going to get a ton of
I've
heat for
heard that
doing
too.
too much as well. So what do? You have to find that happy medium. You don't do enough, and you're not going to get hired. And they're going to go, you're a great worker. And they're not going to hire you because, you know what I mean? But you go the other way, then you'll get heat for doing too much. And so it's ever so difficult. And you talk about what a good wrestling match, and that's an adjective that, what is a good wrestling match? And what is wrestling? I say this in seminars all the time. What is wrestling? Why do we do professional wrestling? We're trying to make money. It's a business, you know. Yes, it's an art form, and yes, we love it, and all of the above. But if this doesn't draw money, if people don't watch our TV show, if they don't buy DVDs, pay-per-views, we're not going to be doing it anymore.
Yeah.
Apart from in our backyards. You
Right.
know. So ultimately, in my mind, and I think a lot of people in WWE feel the same way, good wrestling draws money. And that's the bottom line, And so when it comes to girls wrestling, what makes people want to watch girls wrestle?
I think a solid 2-minute diva match is better than a 4-minute train wreck. So I would
Yeah.
rather watch that solid.
You can.
Yeah, I
What
enjoyed
it
that
was.
match.
Yeah,
very
that's
much
what
so.
it was.
A lot of times I think I use the example of Nikita, the TV show, where girls don't have to just be hair pulling and tits and ass and stuff like that. They can actually be athletic, but it's got to be presented in a way that's, believable. And I don't think necessarily women have to be wrestling in the same way that men have to be wrestling. Because if you watch MMA, they don't fight in the same way because, they're not designed in the same way.
Right.
You can still present women's wrestling without it being tits and ass, as and there are plenty of girls out there that can do that. You just got to give them the chance.
Did we say tits?
We're
said
on the
it.
internet, so I think
just
we can,
did.
but
Yeah. How old are you?
36 last count.
You're a world of knowledge.
Thank you.
Mike Sanders told me that about you. You sound like you're an encyclopedia.
Is that right?
when did you start?
Wrestling?
Yeah. When did you start training? What year?
98.
Okay.
Yeah. But I picked up a lot of it, as I said, off air from the Observer and a lot of the newsletters and
Yeah.
reading a lot of that sort of stuff, the background of it. And I think once you get involved with professional wrestling, that's what keeps you going. When you get it, when you understand that we're not just pretending to beat each other up.
Oh, yeah.
There is an art form and there's subtleties to this, you
Yes.
know. And I would love to one day have professional wrestling on the same level as theatre and movies, you know. And that's what I'm trying to get over in this documentary, trying to present it in a way that doesn't insult your intelligence. We're not trying to tell people it's real or anything
Yeah.
else like that. We're trying to show that I think people understand now you get hurt. They understand
yeah,
the
they
violence
are.
is real, but they don't understand the difference between going out there and just like doing moves
Yeah.
and going out there and drawing people in and picking them up and sitting them down at the right moment. And when you take Shawn Michaels at Undertaker at WrestleMania, I mean, just the way that every single person in that arena was right there for it. And for them, it wasn't about whether it was real or whether it was fake. It was just they didn't give a shit. They were there for it, you know?
Yeah.
To do that, to get that passion. Wow, that's something.
One of the best ways I think I heard it described once is if you look at a match of like words in a story is you can, if you tell a story with just a bunch of huge words like supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, every word, well, you can, you'll tell a crappy story with these huge words, but you can tell a really good story with small words of and the love and tell an amazing story with those small words. So it's not about it's not about what words you're using, but kind of how you're using them and in what context and how you combine them.
Great.
Yeah, that's very
I
good
thought it was a
analogy.
really interesting
It is very good
way
analogy.
good analogy on that.
So now after that we had a
We had the the John Cena Dream Machines promo
Right.
For the upcoming show on Sci-Fi. But after that, we had someone you know very well. I think Antonio Cesaro, aka Claudio Castagnoli, being oiled up in the back, the back by poor Teddy Long.
Can we say oiled up in the back?
I think that's what
That's
it is.
what we- that's
Exactly.
what
We're
they
not
were
far
doing.
from the San Fernando Valley, so maybe we can get that one in.
Greased
or
up.
West Hollywood.
Yeah.
So so
Claudio is a fantastic guy, and he's a guy that paid his dues and started at the bottom. He used to come and watch shows in Switzerland when he was there, and then came over to America and really paid his dues and went to all the small independents, and is arguably one of the technically best wrestlers in the world. A fantastic build as well, looks fantastic.
Yeah.
Cuts a good promo. I mean, there are so many guys out there who are so talented. I just hope they get the opportunity to really build this business to the next level.
Yeah, and you can see how seasoned he is. Just we're saying last week, he kind of reminded me of the old days when he still had the territory systems, and a guy would come in and he'd be ready for a match with Hulk Hogan right away.
There you go.
He'd stick him right in.
Yeah.
And Kurt Hennig came in and was like immediately in big matches, because he could handle that, and you could buy that, and,
Yeah.
and
Right.
you can just see how seasoned he is.
Yep.
That this guy's wrestled everywhere.
That's the way it was back then. Mm-hmm. But we'll talk about that. in a
Yeah,
second.
and now it's like they've got a guy who might have been in FCW for a couple of years and wrestled for 3 years, and then they try to stick him in a big match, and it just doesn't work.
Well,
as
hopefully, like this whole, Claudio, like Daniel Bryan, like CM Punk, like hopefully it'll start trending and
Yeah.
they'll start picking up those workers that have been around the world and have wrestled everywhere.
Yeah, well, we have, as we've said before, too, it's almost like the new territory system with the indies coming in. It took a little while for that transition to happen, but you're starting to see that now as these guys that were in the indies, which was kind of the new territories, coming in and doing really well and taking over.
Yeah, taking over, exactly.
The undersized guys that would never make it are, which I just want to mention, I love the fact that, it's a little bit off subject, but that CM Punk and Daniel Bryan are wrestling for the WWE Championship in a couple weeks. Whoever would have thought that 6-7 years ago?
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people would have, but, I'm sure not guys, the top brass of the WWE.
No,
who
not-
used to laugh and say they're undersized pipsqueaks and internet darlings.
Yeah. Not anymore. Mm-mm. Things have
Now
changed.
they're the darlings of everybody.
So then after that we had what? We had the Del Rio match?
We had the AJ and Caitlyn backstage
Oh, that's
segment.
right. That's right.
Where AJ then slapped Caitlyn again, which seems like they're going to turn her heel. It's seeming more and more
Yeah.
that
That's
Like
what it's
she's just
more psychotic.
more
heel.
psychotic.
Psychotic
Yeah,
heel, yeah.
just snapping.
She snapped.
Yeah, I
Like
always
so
said
many
before,
women I
but
know.
I love AJ. I
That's
think
your
she's
type.
great.
That is my type. I like snappers. Red snappers.
And then after that was the Raw rebound with Brock Lesnar breaking Triple H's arm,
yes.
which is Brock out of control.
Yeah, he's out of control.
Yeah. And then we had the main event.
Yes.
Daniel Bryan versus Sheamus, which I thought was a great match. Just worked that shoulder the whole time.
I had notes on that. The whole time it was the arm and shoulder.
Entire match.
Entire match, which
Yeah.
was the point.
Ripping off the bandages and the whole thing. And you can tell that that's going to be, which is great because obviously he's wrestling Alberto Del Rio, who's got his arm his arm lock as his finisher. So, it's like, is Sheamus going to be able to survive that?
Are you familiar with him, Del Rio?
No, I've never met him, but I've heard obviously a lot of good things about him. I talked to Dragon a few times. Daniel Bryan, I call him Dragon. That's his gimmick name. And he put him over as well. Legit shooter, knows how to handle
Fought in
himself the
Pride.
ring. Yeah. So,
Fought Mirko Cro Cop.
I like his work. I think he's great.
Well,
Yeah, he's one of my favorites, and I always say he's like the Mexican Ted DiBiase to me. He's an old school kind of heel.
You see it right the minute he enters the rings. You can see that in him.
Yeah, and one of my favorite entrances out there. It's so obnoxious. It's absolutely obnoxious with the cars and Ricardo Rodriguez.
Well, they
and-
did that in the 80s.
Yeah,
They did, with the motorcycle, the Corvette, filled the Corvette with cement.
yeah, they did it in the 90s.
The bulldozer. Was it 90s? 90s? Maybe 90s, yeah.
80s and 90s. They did it. Yeah, Eddie Guerrero used to come out with the lowrider
Yeah.
and
And
they've-
the Harleys.
And the Harleys. Yeah, I think the Legion of Doom used to ride Harleys out, right?
Somebody rode him around the ring. I remember that. And that was also
Undertaker during
WCW
the
did that too.
Undertaker did during his American Badass days. He used to ride the bike down.
Yeah.
So they've done that, but he has almost a different car every week, Del Rio, and I love Ricardo Rodriguez's announcing of him. It's so over the top and so obnoxious, but it's one of my favorite parts of the show.
He's the
when they
cartoon
do that.
character.
I hope, I
Yeah.
hope he comes into play more because he's a really good worker too.
I've heard that.
he's got
I've
a
heard
good-
he's really good.
He's got a good position. Well, you're friends with him.
Yeah.
He's got a good
What was
position.
his name that
I
he
used
used
to
to
wrestle
wrestle?
him
It
all
started
the
with a C,
time.
right?
Chimera, yeah.
Chimera, yeah. I've heard people tell me you got to check out the Chimera matches.
He's a good. He's a
You
really
brought
good
him over a
worker.
couple of times.
Yeah,
He's a nice-
he's got a lucha background too. We used to train at the Inoki Dojo and then with Los Luchas. So hopefully we'll get to see him.
He's a
work
nice
with him.
guy.
Yeah, and I heard he was just in the right place at the right time when they were looking
Oh
for an
yeah.
announcer. He was just
He's like a kid in a candy
we
store.
need
right
someone to
now."
do this. Is like, I'll
He's
do
like,
it.
oh yeah, I've done it before. Of course I did ring announcing, and he killed it.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And got himself a development deal as well. And is teaching down in FCW now.
Good for him.
Very good for him. It's
that-
always great whenever someone
Timing.
makes it like
Well,
that.
that was the show.
That was it. Yeah.
A lot of matches.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, what did you think in the? We talked a little bit, but the main event I thought was excellent. I did like that.
It was good.
Yeah,
Definitely good.
yeah, for TV, great match.
Now, they're changed quite a bit, and they're getting back to the old school stuff a lot. I
Yeah,
like that.
and Sheamus didn't take Daniel Bryan out in 18 seconds, so I guess it was better than the WrestleMania match.
Well, that's a one-time deal.
Yeah.
Any predictions, you guys?
Yes, my prediction is the CM Punk and Daniel
Your
Bryan.
AfterBuzz TV predictions.
Whoa, there we go.
There we go.
Where'd Phil go?
Hit it.
A little late on that one. Okay.
My prediction is the Daniel Bryan CM Punk match is going to be a match of the year candidate. I think it's going to those guys are going to tear the house down, I'm sure.
Cool.
I think it's going to be amazing. I'm looking very, very forward to that. I'm so happy that those two are wrestling for that title.
I still want to see Damian Sandow in the ring.
I do too.
We will.
Yeah, I'm mad that he didn't wrestle this week, but that's the whole point, I think.
Building the heat, man.
Yeah.
Well, let's go here. Let's before we close this out, let's talk about what you're promoting again because we want to make sure you get your stuff out there.
Yeah, well, actually, the promoting of that portion of it is kind of over at the moment. Kickstarter.com. I retired at the end of last year for a number of reasons, largely because I pretty much done everything I could do outside of WWE, and that didn't seem to be an option at the time. So, did about 6 weeks and toured around the world and videotaped it. I've now got 70 hours of footage, and I put it up on Kickstarter with a little trailer. I needed 32 grand to turn this into a reality, and got it in 3 days.
Wow.
3 days
Yeah.
absolutely blew me away. I was just totally humbled by the.
I have a question about that.
Yeah,
These people
sure.
put money into their investors, or they just donate.
No, they just donate. They donate. I mean, and you have reward levels. So, say for $10 you get an 8x10. For $30 you get the finished DVD. For $50, you get whatever. All the way up to $5,000, you get like executive producer. And I fly anywhere in the world to watch the DVD with you. That sort of thing. So it's not. They get something for it, but they're not investing in it.
And they have the money to do that.
Yeah, well, that was the thing that was so wonderful about it is, other than a couple of exceptions, people were just donating, anything they possibly could. 30 here, people were donating $4, $5, even though they'd get nothing back for it whatsoever because they wanted to see this get made.
What
That's
attracted their attention to want to go to yours?
Versus other Kickstarter
Yes.
projects, I think the genuine story, which transcends wrestling, transcends all media. That's what we identify with, the human story.
Absolutely.
And that's what I tried to convey, this story about a guy that 14 years old, was in Wembley and watching professional wrestling and turned to his friend and said I'm going to be a professional wrestler, and was kind of laughed at, and spent my life pursuing it, and struggled and paid my dues and earned what I felt was a shot at achieving my dream, but for whatever reason didn't quite make it, and now the retirement tour is trying to come to terms with that and understand that and be happy with that and move on with my life.
Well, that's excellent. My
I mean,
goodness,
did
dude.
you like? I know like the whole WWE thing, but did you ever expect to do what you've done in your career? Like when you said the day you said I want to be a professional wrestler, did you know you were going to travel around the world? Did you feel like you were going to get to work with?
I think that was what arguably the biggest difficulty for me was that I always believed I'd make it. And for no other reason, I had this strange sensation. You know, when you read a book or you watch a movie, and you see the guy at the beginning of it, and he has all these obstacles, and it looks so impossible that he'll ever get there. All those things kept happening to me, and I kept thinking, well, this is it. When I get there, it's all going to make it better, And we did the Brian Pillman Memorial Show, and this was about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And everybody that was supposed to set up the ring went back to the hotel to party with all the WWE wrestlers, apart from me and two other wrestlers and one of the owners of the company. We spent until 2 o'clock in the morning tearing down the ring. Didn't get a chance to meet any of those guys or have any fun whatsoever, but I went, you know what? When I get there, it's going to be worth it. I'm going to be proud that I did this. And I wasn't. You know what I mean? Forget about paying your dues. Just get there as quickly as you can and make some money. And that's a shame. But, that's kind of the reality of the wrestling business.
And you have your DVDs for sale now too?
Not at the moment. You go to rohwrestling.com to buy the highlight DVD, but the actual documentary should be available soon. So go to kickstarter.com, put Nigel into the search engine, you better find it there.
Good. Don't forget to go to my website, rickdrason.com. I have a book on my life. I have some videos. I have all kinds of little paraphernalia I'm selling. And don't forget Rick's Corner at rickscorner.com. And Ryan?
I start with Millennium Pro Wrestling next week, Saturday, Simi Valley, California.
Oh, wow.
Very excited.
I just want to give a shout out to my Lucha Vavoom family who is performing at the Mayan tonight for Cinco de Mayo. And you can see my upcoming shows at ny-ko.com.
Cool. Stay tuned for Old School Wrestling coming on next. And thank you for watching our after show on SmackDown on AfterBuzz TV.
From Bing.com, executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.